Today we're going to talk about how to write a scientific research paper. It does sound very boring and it does involve a lot of writing, but guess what?
You can make it more fun by choosing the topic that you're interested in. You can start with something like, does K-pop prevail in Asia? Why do people prefer Nike over Adidas? And how is Marvel different from DC?
Or you can go further and perform research about how social media influences interpersonal communication, or what are the best ways to reduce global warming?
However, for this class, we'll be focusing on a scientific approach, hypothesis testing, data collection, and its analysis.
You will be divided into groups and decide on the topic all together. Your research paper, however, will be written on an individual basis using the data collected by the group.
For this research project, you will be able to either collect your own data, like maybe you want to know how a male's height affects his attractiveness to females, or how one's involvement in social media affects their grades.
Or you can also choose to use some internet resources that give you data on a variety of topics. For example, the amount of pollution in Hong Kong districts, diversification of fish populations in Hong Kong versus Japan, or the cost of living in Hong Kong.
So, when you've decided on the topic of your research project, you have to come up with a title for your research paper. The title should be concise and introduce the subject of your project, straight to the point.
Now, the second part of your paper is called an abstract. The abstract is a description of your study, and it usually consists of only one paragraph. It's easier to write your abstract after you're done with your research and have all the information about your study.
Then we get to the introduction. So what are you going to do in your introduction, Liz?
Duh, of course, you're going to introduce your research.
Wow! So how can you do that? Well, first of all, you have to clearly state the question that you hope to answer with your study.
Then you'll have to discuss why the question you picked is important. In order for us to understand why this topic is so important, you have to give us some background. Put your question into context and discuss what we already know about the topic. You should also review and cite previous research on your topic.
But most importantly, all of your hypotheses should be clearly stated in your introduction.
Now, the fourth part of your research paper should talk about methods and materials.
This section of your paper should tell us how you conducted your study. It's kind of like a cookbook recipe that briefly explains every step of your research. Think of it this way. If next year's students want to recreate your experiment, which steps should they follow?
You should describe your methods clearly. You can even practice this with your friends. Give them your recipe and see if they will be able to understand how to do it.
So after you're done with your methodology, you can start working on the next part, which is the results section.
Now, I'm pretty sure you know what should be in your results section. That is, of course, the time when you report on the results of your study. But please, don't just insert all of your collected data in one place.
Would you be interested in reading that yourself? No way! Your results section should contain only the summary of your data and the results of your statistical tests.
And again, don't copy everything you see from Excel. Just focus on the most meaningful findings.
In this section, you need to decide how to visually represent your data.
How do we do that?
Well, you can use a graph, of course. And to choose which type of graph is best for your data, check out our video on different types of graphs.
Cool. And don't make the mistake of starting to discuss everything at the same time. You can just talk about one hypothesis at a time.
So, here are the things that you should include in your results section.
First, state your null and alternative hypotheses.
Next, provide the summary of your data.
State which statistical test you use to analyze your data.
And show the results of your statistical tests. For example, your p-value.
Then you can evaluate your null and alternative hypotheses.
And last but not least, state the final answer to your question.
Now that was a lot, so let's look at an example. Say you're studying whether there is a difference in the number of hours per day that males and females spend on social media.
Our null hypothesis will be that there is no difference in how many hours per day males and females spend on social media. Our alternative hypothesis will be that there is a difference in how many hours per day males and females spend on social media.
Then you would report the mean values for both male and female. So a mean number of hours spent on social media by males and that by females. Next, state if this is a two-tailed or one-tailed test. So in this case, it's a two-tailed test. Now by plugging in your values in Excel, you should have found out the p-value and made a decision if you should accept or reject the null hypothesis. This is the final answer you should report.
And you can follow the same procedure for any questions that you want to ask. And finally, the last section of your paper is called the discussion. There, you have to tell your reader what you learned from your research.
You have to answer your questions and discuss new questions that you might want to answer in the future. Show your reader how cool and mind-blowing your study is.
So, this is all for the crash course on writing a research paper. The golden rule is, choose the topic that you'll have fun with, not the one that will bore you to death.
Right, and then just follow these steps. That's all for today.